FM News Talk 97.1. On demand audio.
Well, here the kids are all hopped up and ready to go. They're ready to go now.
This is The Dana Show.
Talk lines are open now at 314-969-9797 or toll free at 866-455-9797. You're listening to The Dana Show.
971talk.com/Dana, Dana Cam, which is up and streaming right now. And as well, make sure you check out danaradio.com. Find me on Twitter, DLOESCH, D-Lash. The sequester. The president met with Speaker Boehner and other leaders of Congress for what? It was like 45 minutes, I think, was the duration of time that they got together. And from the New York Times, the president was instead insisting upon increase of revenues, which of course is taxes. That's the kind of fancy language that Democrats like to say when it's time for an increase in taxes. And Boehner stopped him. Kudos to Boehner, although I know a lot of people were saying that his speakership would hang in the balance depending on whether or not he would fold on this. For all of the latest on this news, we speak to Representative Todd Rokita from WIBCville out in Indiana. Congressman, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Dana, great to be back.
You know, when this, I was waiting last night as the clock ticked down. I mean, even though this is already essentially kind of it's signed into law for a year now, we had the deadline, and one of the lights of my bathroom vanity went out, and it was totally because of sequestration.
Yeah, I'm surprised my car started this morning.
You know, I'm telling you, and I'm sure, you know, that if you have any flying to do, Congressman, as I know people who are serving the public are wont to do, they have to fly home, they have to fly to D.C. There's no way you can do that now because the planes are just not flying.
Yeah, it's absolutely asinine. You know, here in Indiana, I was Indiana Secretary of State for 8 years before I went to Congress, and had to run 5 agencies, certainly not as big as the federal government, but they were bureaucracies nonetheless. And to say that you can't cut 2 to 3% out of any bureaucracy is it's really stupid. And the good thing is, I think the American people are seeing that, because this president is flailing his arms and getting more hysterical by the hour. And you only do that when the polls. And you know he watches the polls. Mm-hmm. That's about all he does. That's the extent of his leadership, quite frankly. The polls are telling him that we're not believing it this time. Look, we're talking about going down to 2009 federal government levels. I mean, Dana, did meat not get inspected in 2009? Did planes fall out of the sky in 2009 because the air traffic controllers, left tower cabs?
Right.
I mean, come on. Another way to look at this, if it's 2 to 3%, think about all the all that government does on 2 pennies out of every dollar. Yeah. I never knew they did that much.
Yeah. I mean, well, and here, the president, when he was meeting with leadership today, was insisting upon bringing up once again, revenue, and Boehner told him revenue's close. But, Congressman, why is it that Americans, we saw our paycheck shrink? We are able to take a 2%, a real cut, but Washington can't slow the growth by 2% and only spend $15 billion more?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, these aren't even 2% in real cuts from an even baseline. That's 2% decrease in the increase in spending, which is about 8%. So that's what we're talking about here. And to say that it's the same old thing, the same old playbook. We'd always need more revenue, and it's always the rich people's fault.
Now, the House had proposed, I know you all passed 2 pieces of legislation to try to avert these cuts. The president didn't pick up the phone to talk to leadership until Thursday of last week, despite knowing this was coming for, over a year now. And then there was the discussion of a push to essentially have the president decide what he would cut. If he doesn't like the way that the cuts are stipulated in sequestration, then you all were considering passing something so that he would be able to decide. And he threatened to veto that as well. So it's like it's really, you're up against the Democrat Senate, which is doing the bidding of this administration.
Yeah, that's right. First of all, we didn't want. It's not that we wanted to avert the cuts. We passed replacement ideas that would basically do the same job in a more laser-like fashion. If the argument is, well, cutting across the board is the lazy man's way to do it, it's using meat axe to go after this. Well, let me first say that I'm one who sees so much fat and waste in government all over as a member of the Budget Committee that I think you can take an axe to this stuff. I think that's how big and fat and largesse this whole thing is, and people are making excuses. But let's take the excuse off the table. We gave two other ways to do this, two other solutions, and we're going to come back next week and offer a third solution. And we're just to try to take these arguments off the table, not to cede any authority or any more power to the president, but just say, okay. And really, it's in the military. What we're going to say is, okay, generals, if you say you can't do all these things because of the way these cuts are coming in, here's a scalpel. Here's some flexibility. And it's true, because if we're going to ask these generals to lead, part of leadership is managing to a budget.
Right.
And they're claiming they can't manage to a budget because they don't have the right tools. So next week we're going to attempt to give these generals, the military, the tools. There are nearly, and I think over now, 800,000 civilian employees in the military, serving the military. We don't need that much. And if you look at the Constitution, as I know you do, Dana, the military is for our defense, not a jobs program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is, you mentioned next week you're going to work to bring to alleviate that in terms of defense. So what is the next step? Where do we go from here? Because the White House seems to be holding fast to tax increases, and really they want more revenue. They really don't want to get serious about cutting what's really hurting us. I mean, is the entitlements. I mean, we talked about $5 million yesterday to study golden shiner fish, for crying out loud.
I know. Well, here's what we don't do starting next week, starting today. Right? So technically, we joke a little bit about, and I said, hey, my car's actually started this morning. The sequester is not going to kick in until about 11:59 tonight. Right? It has to start today. So they define today all the way up to 11:59. So they're going to wait till the last second.
Right.
But what we do starting tomorrow and next week is we don't blink. We do not give in to this. And the American people cannot give in to this fear-mongering and this hysteria, because that's how we never change. That's how we have got to change the culture, and this is what we got to do. And then immediately starting next week, we work on more cuts. Paul Ryan and I and other Budget Committee members, we're working on a budget right now that's going to balance in 10 years, which sounds too long for many of us, but the last two budgets, as radical as we were told they were, didn't even balance for 26 years. So now we're even going to keep working on these cuts, and that's exactly what we have to do. The worst thing we can do is back down.
Yes. Do you think that Speaker Boehner is going to hold strong in this?
He has to. He has to. Or, you mentioned the wrath that would be faced. I don't make those kind of comments on the air, but, this is what many of us came to do, and so he's just going to have to.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that. I know that there was a lot of discussion, and I think, at least right now, with the meeting that took place with the president today, it didn't even last an hour, and he and McConnell held the line on that, which was needed. I was concerned about that, Congressman.
Yeah. Well, the other way to look at this, Dana, is like the old song goes, Grateful Dead song, "Set up like a bowling pin." Is one of the lines, and that's what's happening here. The president calls them in; they have to go. He sets them up, has a silly little meeting that doesn't do anything, then goes out and beats them up in the press for the rest of the day.
Right.
Yeah. So I think these guys are finally learning that, and say, hey, well, we get it, we got to go, but we're not going to budge.
Right. Exactly. And as McConnell had stated, and I thought McConnell's response to that was great, by the way. He's like, look, you guys got your tax increases back in January. And why is it that the American people are expected to do with less, and you all can't even slow your spending? I mean, I was really impressed with his messaging on that. And I'm not usually, not to be harsh on him, but I'm not usually.
I think same with me, Dan, but I feel exactly the same way you do about that, the Senate situation and leadership. But look, we're winning this thing, and I gauge that we're winning because of how hysterical the president's becoming. I think we're breaking him, and the worst thing we can do is back down. And there's a lot of us in our caucus that I think they're seeing the light bulbs are turning on, and I think you're going to see us get more bold over the next couple of weeks.
Well, you have a lot of folks behind you, Congressman Todd Rokita from Indiana. Keep at it, and we appreciate the work you're doing. Hold firm, and got a lot of people out there to support you.
We'll Keep going, Dana. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Take care. We'll talk again soon. All right, folks, we have your calls coming up, 866-455-9797. Keep it here. It's the Dana Show.
Oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire.
This is The Dana Show.